presentation, I've prepared something small for you, and will actually wanted to launch here like a quick poll. So there's two questions I wanted to ask you. Number one is, did you ever come across a client's coverage request regarding the foreign placement for one of your clients? So you can actually answer the question at the bottom of your screen. So that's number one, just to get a little bit of a warm up. And then the second one is, in which parts of the world would you expect some of your clients to provide their services, set up production sites to manufacture for the US market? So very interesting. I see there's some answers coming in. Very good. I see yes is the answer for some of you folks. And yeah, and I see great. That's great. And yeah, and then thank you, that's great. And I see like the answers to question number two is that most of you expect Mexico and Latin America and also Southeast Asia. So that's really something, yeah, like that is actually not surprising. So actually going back to this one. So yeah, like what can I say? It's in general like a development we have been seeing over like the last couple of actually months, and I would say in the last 18 months, where we see a clear development going away from actually our like from China. And we're seeing like certainly like also during the pandemic, a clear shift of the supply chain going certainly towards Mexico and Latin America and Southeast Asia. So yeah, like so where we are today with our organization is that like we actually are in business for already 25 years at this point in time. We're one of the largest, we manage one of the largest independent broker networks in the world with a geographical reach of 180 plus countries. So we pretty much have a representation anywhere really in the world. And the only places where placements are a little bit more difficult to arrange for us are pretty much crisis areas, and also partially also OFAC sanctioned nations. So altogether, we have about 380 plus members in our network globally. And we are really, like I said, have very high quality partners who are part of our network. So actually, like we actually very proud of getting to the place where we are in terms of size and in terms of success, and order how we actually helped other agents really all around the world, help them produce business. So from a geographical reach, you can see here like the geographics and the map we actually here providing. So that will tell you a little bit of an overview where our portfolio lies today. So everything in dark blue is where we have a larger portfolio. We have like quite a number of placements. So one of the big advantages, like going with us, is instead of actually trying to arrange everything with you, is the fact that we can leverage like our business with our different partners. So because we have 380 plus members, we getting like in even countries like Colombia, Ecuador, and also South Africa, or like places like India. We are not doing one placement, but we are able to bundle those placements with all of our partners, and therefore you profit from that, which means the partners pay a lot of attention to the business. We either implement to an international program, which is one of the options you have, or for standalone placements because they have substantial volume of business with us. So only on the purple side and the gray, these are geographies where we have not as much business placed. Those geographies are really, as you can see, more emerging countries in Africa, most of them, and in the Middle East and in Asia. So while there is more placements there, we have also the ability to place it, but we don't have yet the volume as we have in the blue territories. And the gray ones are really as I mentioned before, are really mostly, I would really call it crisis areas like Libya, like unfortunately Yemen, where we have these attacks on piracy right now in the Red Sea, or like I said, unfortunately, areas of OFAC sanctioned like Iran, and also neighboring Syria, which are really crisis territories, in Afghanistan, of course, as well. So, but what are the secrets, or how have we become very successful over the last 25 years of our services? Like some of it already mentioned to you. So what we do is we provide the full account management of the implementation. So you're not the one really contacting our partners. We have a full account management team who will take the exposure information if it's a standalone placement and place that business on your behalf. And while doing so, you don't really have to deal with the different compliance rules or the different cultures of around the globe, which can be a very big challenge. So you can continue to focus on producing US business, and that's really some of the I would say really successes we had in the past. So when we're looking, like, one of the big advantages I see is definitely that we really understand the cultural differences. We have we have about over 30 people strong team, which is a really strong team in comparison with some of the other networks who operate globally. And we actually transact all our business through an IT platform called TSC Digit. So the core of our service offering is, number one, if you have questions related to admitted or non-admitted placements in anywhere in the world, you can give us a call and or send us an email, or so we can actually provide advice to you whether that's something feasible and makes sense, to provide non-admitted coverage, or whether there is actually a necessity by local rules to provide local admitted coverage. So if once the next step is done, if the placement is then really realized and we're doing actually the placement, and the client has provided the binding orders, then we are the ones implementing the coverages. And so that's something which is something we're very used to in terms of compliance rules. So we have really the expertise to really advise what kind of compliance rules to follow. Taxation rules often play a big role. Very good example is also Canada, where when you remember, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was actually feasible, and it still is feasible, to do non-admitted placements, but it's becoming much more burdensome as Canadian provinces have put up very, very, very tough compliance rules and higher taxation, federal excise, Canadian tax, for example, which is things we can advise you of if you have such a necessity. So that's so how does it work? So as I said, we are the ones interacting with the local broker, with the servicing broker. So we prepare the foreign submission together with them. We go to market. We provide the quotes to you, which you can provide to the client. When you have larger operations locally, we also advise that our local partner is able to work with the local client, because it often is a much easier way to deal with that. One good example is Mexico. Mexico has anti-money laundering laws. So often your client might not be familiar how this works, but for any Mexican citizen operating in Mexico, that is basically their bread and butter. They deal with that every day. And so it's much easier to get this done, do a local contact. So that's one of the things we also advise of. So our services also include risk management support. So our partners are also going out there where it's necessary, for example, on the property side, to conduct loss control visits with them. We analyze quotes for you. We make recommendations, which you do then can pass on to your client. And we also advise of the local ratings. So in many other markets, there are carriers sometimes you might not be used to. Like a very good example I come up with Latin America, which comes to my mind, is ASA. ASA is one of the strongest Central American carrier. So if you have any placements in countries like Guatemala, Panama, Costa Rica, then that would be a market we would consider and we can recommend, but probably not a market you're familiar with. So who we are a wholesaler for international business. That's really what probably describes us in the best way. We call ourselves the international desk for our producers. So think of us as your basic international desk, as your extension for basically your organization, just as you would have one person sitting in your office, just doing nothing else than the international business. So like we speak a lot of languages within our company. That's something we're very proud of. So myself, as you can hear, I'm German. So I was coming over here as an expatriate over 23 years ago I'm actually from Cologne, Germany, and used to work many years for AXA. And in Europe, it is very common that you speak many languages. So, for example, myself, I speak, besides, of course, German and English, also Spanish and French. So, and my assistant, who is actually located in the Bay Area, she also speaks, she's Hong Kong Chinese and speaks fluently Mandarin and Cantonese. And we have many other people in our organization who speak Arabic, who speak Russian. So that's a very big advantage going with us, as we are able to also speak the local language with the partners. So what is the added value? So I think number one is, in my personal opinion, that we protect your business from alpha brokers. So in the middle market business, like having worked on the underwriting side also for quite some time with actually the Marsh, Aon, and Willis of this world, I believe that they are not really good in providing good solutions in the middle market business. The organizations are too big, their expense factor is too large to provide efficient solutions, and they're not going to put like their best resources on it. But nevertheless, so if you don't have a solution, they will come after your business. So, and that's one of the reasons why I took this job here, like with my company, because I believe that that you and us together will provide a much better solutions than they can for middle market clients. So the other very big thing is to eliminate the errors and omissions liability exposure, because what we do is we have, like, not every single partner of ours will become a servicing broker. We have a clear due diligence process where we follow through, making sure that our partners have adequate errors and omissions liability coverage in place, of course, with respect to their geography, which means like in emerging countries or territories where liability and sue happiness is not as really as big as in the US. The errors and omissions liabilities limits are smaller, but they still have it adequately in place. We're making sure that they're licensed to conduct the business. And that's really something you can fall back on, which in my personal opinion is a huge thing, because if your client is a US client with international exposure, and let's say you're arranging the placement for them internationally in the US, you become and you are liable also for errors and omissions which occur outside of the country. So falling back on us, we eliminate or at least reduce this exposure dramatically, which I think is a very big advantage. So then also do not be shy to go after basically foreign clients. I think like we have had like some great success over the last 18-24 months, where we actually helped agents and also middle market brokers to actually win business away from the alpha brokers, also like, and I would include in that also Lockton or Arthur G. Gallagher, who like we were able to actually beat together with our producer. And last but not least, also a very interesting aspect is the ability to generate additional revenue. So like we actually have agreements in place with our partners, and when there is a certain threshold exceeded, we actually receive commission actually income, and half of that income will be actually put back into the associate risk manager organizations, and then will also you can profit from that and get this back. So the threshold is pretty much like I said, in probably most countries, the equivalent of about 2,500 US dollars. So yeah, so here's something we put together in terms of what alpha brokers are doing and why I think like this is a great opportunity and you can do a much better job together with us. They charge minimum fees by country, irrespective of which country it is, irrespective of the number of placements. So even if you are in an African country or a Latin American country, and it's very small in terms of coverages, $5,000 is the minimum fee for PNC, with really all basically alpha brokers. And for employee benefits, it's often 10,000. So that's really high. And not only that they're charging high minimum fees, there's also like in most cases a service center approach. So which means you don't really get, your client does not get any local service. So very good example that comes to my mind is Lockton. Lockton in Europe is servicing like smaller clients, middle market clients out of their service center in Manchester in the UK. And in addition to that, that's not really a good center service approach. The other issue is it's outside of the EU. So if you have a client located in Germany or Italy, it's not really compliant, right? So so again, like our broker partners are local. They have representations close to the point of sale, as I call it. So in Germany, for example, we have three different servicing brokers, which we choose depending on the region. They're all re-qualified, but for us, it's very important that they're able to visit the client, even though it's a smaller client, because it can take a car and can go maybe within half an hour or 1 hour of reach in terms of basically able to visit them. So it's next one like here I want to share with you is that actually in most countries there are mandatory coverages. So like workers' compensation is typically provided in many countries through Social Security to or monopolistic governmental providers. So good example is really Latin America, Mexico. You can name it, Colombia, Costa Rica, they all have basically workers' comp through the Social Security provider. So in Europe, it's very similar. So you have like in continental Europe, in places like France, Germany, Spain, also is very similar. But there is in many cases also the necessity to provide employer's liability. It's not in for example the UK. Employer's liability is a mandatory coverage and needs to be placed on a privatized basis. So that's something we can help you with, and we have great access to the markets. And there again, like across the globe, a few territories where this is something you must provide. Hong Kong is another place, Singapore as well, where actually workers' comp is a mandatory coverage and must be placed privately, and we are actually able to assist you in doing that. Automobile liability is pretty much mandatory coverage in most territories all across the globe. That is similar to the US. And like I said, we're the ones really can advise you what really is necessary. So the second part of this is really related to a good local standard. So one of the issues we're seeing more and more is that actually international programs provided by the standard coverage providers here in the US, insurance carriers such as like Chubb, AIG, like they often no longer really meet the local standards. So, and we have to our local also partners the ability to benchmark that and can actually advise you if certain local coverages should not be are not included. So, example, again, like me being German, like heavy rain, right? Heavy rain, property coverage in Germany. I don't know whether you have followed latest events in across Europe. We had heavy floods in Bavaria in actually just a week ago. And there have been over 2.5 billion in damages in terms of property damage actually being caused, and also partially to industrial risk. So in Germany, although what you might not know is in the good local coverages for property, heavy rain, so any damage caused by heavy rain is actually included. So that would never be included in a local coverage provided by one of the US carriers and the local policy, local property policy. So that's a very good example where we can help you to actually navigate the international world, and where we can actually help you to provide the best solution for your client, and also potentially, again, eliminate errors and omissions liability, because if you don't provide it and the client finds out, there would be exposure to you as well. So yeah, having said that, like in addition to local standalone placements, we are also able like to follow you like for international program solutions. In other words, we can provide the network. So if you have a client with 5 or 10 different countries, and in this particular case, it makes sense to implement an international program, we're the ones who will administer like all the local coverages for you. We will transact on the IT platform, make it available to you, and potentially you can make it also available to your client. So again, like I said, we act as your international desk, and that's kind of something we can do for general liability, for property, and more recently also for actually financial loss coverages such as E&O and also D&O. We're seeing more and more also local policies, so we can also assist them actually for you. So we have talked about some of these coverages if are mandatory. One thing I would like also to share is we can also do US exporters liability policies. You might have a client who imports goods into the US and they're manufactured in India or in China, so we also can go to market and arrange the liability, exporters liability coverage for them. So that's something which is actually something we can also offer to you. So, and like last but not least, yeah, we can do reverse program placements. That's something interesting. So if you have a client in the automobile sector, which comes to my mind, so in Europe, for example, recall coverage is readily available and is very reasonably priced. It's much more than coverage than you would find in the US for which is typically placed on excess and surplus basis. So if you have a client in this regard, there is the possibility that we can actually place recall coverage also out of Europe for not only the European operations, but also other operations of this client. So that's another actually possibility of providing coverages to you. So then we actually turn to employee benefits. So we're not only administering property and casualty business, but also employee benefits. So employee benefits are becoming more and more important all across the globe, but there are specific countries, I would say, where like we have enlisted them here, which is India, Brazil, and South Africa, where it is actually where the PMI is actually, which is private medical insurance, is very similar handled in the US. So it's really handled through like on a privatized basis, through a private placement. And we're happy to assist you in this. Our partners, we're able to actually implement those coverages and can actually also service them for you. So in addition to that, you will find a lot of countries such Latin America where Social Security is providing basic coverages. Canada is another one where we can actually provide supplemental medical insurance coverage or drug access to drugs is a big issue also in Latin America. So we can actually arrange those coverages. And also there are many countries these days who have followed the example of the US to provide 401k equivalent schemes, which means defined contribution plans. So yeah, beside that, the PMI, like group accident coverage, is very common in many countries. Group life. Then in Mexico, there's actually we have access to D&O employee benefits plans, which means like specific officers of the company can have managerial employee benefits plans. And then there's also like certain countries, the Netherlands comes to my mind, their short-term disability is also not provided by Social Security, but needs to be placed on a privatized basis. So then the next one I wanted to also share with you is admitted coverages in Eastern Europe. Unfortunately, we're still having ongoing the war in Ukraine and Russia, between Ukraine and Russia. And as a result of it, there have been, of course, OFAC sanctions against Russia. Again, not Russia, but Russian, I would say Russian persons or organizations who are typically related to Vladimir Putin. And the same like also for neighboring countries, including Belarus, which is the case. So that led to the fact that a lot of the typical US carriers, the Zurichs, the AIGs, the Chubbs, even the CNAs of this world no longer can include those current countries within an international program. So local policies cannot be provided. So we have the ability to place those coverages on a standalone basis in those markets. We are still following OFAC sanctions. I have to say that's very important to emphasize. But we have the ability to protect what I call Western assets. So like when there is an American company who has an assets in Russia, this is not an asset which is sanctioned by OFAC. That's an asset which deserves protection because it is an American asset, and we can actually provide coverage for that. And that's really like not only for Russia, and I think it's really applicable right now for quite a fefew of the former Soviet republics where carriers are less and less actually want to provide those coverages because again they really fear the sanctions and also do not have often also the ability the representation anymore within those countries, which is another issue, but we can help you there. So another one example is employee benefits. So employee benefits, I wanted to also provide an example here for you. So if you have a client who, for example, goes into South Africa or where like there is like a necessity to provide employee benefits in the European territory, then actually we actually have the ability to place that for you, and we do not charge those high minimum fees. So like there is not $10,000 charged. So if you go into an RFP with 10 countries and basically Aon Hewitt or Mercer will charge then already $100,000 just not having provided any service at all. So going with us and not being not having these kind of basically high minimum fees in our opinion gives you a very good chance to win this list. So in an RFP, so like we have been very successful in also administering employee benefit programs for different US clients and also actually European clients as well. So that's something we would like to remind you, so we can also do employee benefits for you. So yeah, and that's we're coming almost like to the end of our session here. So like a little bit to say about our platforms. So different than in the past, we're not really transacting our business on spreadsheets. It's done on a really cloud-based platform. So this platform is on equal footing to basically the Marsh, Aon, Willis platforms. So it has actually 24/7 access to the data. Once everything is placed there, you will find all the information you need in the English language, which I think is a very big advantage instead of just having local policies. Because when you're looking at international coverages, about 80 to 85% of the coverages, the languages are not English. So if you have a policy issued in France, it's of course in French language, in Germany in German language, in Latin America mostly in Spanish or Portuguese when it's in Brazil. So we in our platform we have actually we can provide summaries for you and the client in English language, so you have an idea what kind of coverage is actually provided. And that applies to property and casualty as well as employee benefits. So yeah, so we're coming really to the end of our session here. So as you can see, I'm putting in this config information, and please don't hesitate also to have yeah, Bob actually to contact Bob, who's here our representative we're working with. Like I said, we're very happy to partner with you, and so no question is not really too silly to be asked. So please do not really be shy, and yeah, let us please know when you have a need for international coverages, when a subsidiary is abroad. So so now is a good time to have some additional questions. So let me see what we have here. So I see one question, which is very interesting, is like saying, that's a very good one. I like that. So the question is, how do you deal with registration, company registration? Are there rules and are there certain basically like prerequisites for a coverage abroad, so when you go abroad? And so what it means is it's more like in the US, as you know, like when a company is incorporated, it typically what is generated is a fine ID and a registration. So yeah, the answer is yes. In a foreign country, when in order to actually do a placement, a subsidiary needs to be registered. So like when your client has, for example, a company in Mexico, the company in Mexico needs to be registered. So what we typically advise is to provide us with a copy of the registration. And that typically has a registration number, which is almost equal to a fine ID. So that's something which is very similar to the US, and that's really something we would need in order to actually do the actual placement. So yeah, that's a very good question. So next question is, what do I see here? Do you also actually provide coverage for US territories? That's a very good question as well. So yes, the answer is yes. So, like, while you might not really think of international when it comes to Guam or Puerto Rico or Saipan, as some of the territories, we also are able to provide coverages for those territories. And recently, we have seen more and more actually things coming up for FunnyWise for the Pacific Islands of Guam and Saipan. So we have the ability, because it's actually treated almost like a foreign territory. So we can also provide standalone placements in those territories. So even though it's a US state, they're almost treated equivalent to actually a foreign territory. So yeah, thank you for that question. And then let's see, what else do we have? Do we have another question here? Yeah, there's one more. So the other, going back to what I said in the beginning, is like, how is has the supply chain changed over since the pandemic has started? What are the trends you're seeing? So the trends you're seeing is, I think I led to it in the beginning of basically the webinar, that we're seeing less and less business coming into China. So US companies no longer really invest into China. That has stopped. They keep their assets in China, so which means there's still a necessity to provide those coverages when you actually have a client who has operations in China. So they still continue to actually operate there. But new operations are really right now, in particular manufacturing sites for the US market, are mostly basically set up in actually, like I said, Mexico. We're seeing a lot. We're starting to see also things going farther south. Didn't mention maybe El Salvador is right now in the forefront. It's probably one of the best countries in Central America in terms of political stability, which has been one, and of course the countries of Vietnam has also attracted new manufacturing sites as much as Malaysia and also Indonesia, so Southeast Asia. So that's really where what we have. So yeah, there's maybe time for one more basic question. Do we have anything else? A different question here. So what do I see here? Anything related to it? Well, there's also the question of yeah, that's a good one. Well, yes, I'm German. Yes. What about foreign investment in the US? And yeah, I can also like answer that. There is actually right now you might be surprised we're in an election year, and and of course it's very tense as you know, but actually there's a lot of investment coming into the US. So if you're asking me what is my expectation going forward, there's certainly also the possibility, I think, of more foreign investment into basically the US, coming not only from Germany but other nations, as the war in Ukraine and Russia has increased the energy prices in those countries for manufacturing sites. So we're definitely seeing more. I would expect more investments also from Europe coming into it. Yeah, and the last one here, I want to also say is I also believe that Africa is actually much more on the forefront than before, even though you might not think about Africa as a number one continent on an international front. But Africa has tremendous, I would say, capacities in terms of mining. So Chinese companies are operating largely in many countries of Africa, and actually a country like Nigeria is a country of 300 million with 300 million inhabitants. So there is, in my personal opinion, also a very big potential in Africa, and we're seeing also more. I would expect more placements going into Africa going forward. So, but yeah, like I said, that I think that's kind of really puts it to conclusion. So, like I said, we're very happy to partner with the Associate Risk Managers, happy about the new partnership, and we're open for business. So we want to, like I said, we're happy to provide you with actually our services. Here again, I put up the contact numbers here for us. So please don't hesitate to contact us if you have placements in Canada, in Mexico, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, and even the Middle East, Dubai, not to forget about, also very big in the forefront. So yeah, like I said, we're very pleased to actually receive any request and help you with anything we can. So thank you so much for actually participating today, and I wish everybody a great summer, and again, a prosperous rest of the year. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye bye.